morning, Grand Rising to everyone. Welcome to Wedgewood this morning. If you are visiting, we are asking that you put your information in the chat so that we can put you on our newsletter list to get our weekly news. So much is happening at Wedgewood, and we don't have time to tell it all on Sunday morning. So get on our newsletter list so that you will know what's going on. And happy Father's Day to everyone. Everybody's a father to somebody.
Happy Father's Day.
Dogs, nieces, nephews, sons, daughters. So happy Father's Day to everyone, and thank you for all that you do for all of the people. I want you to sit back for just a moment this morning and relax. Relax your body and your shoulders. Let go of all that tension from the week. And Brian, if you will please put the picture of the suitcase on the screen. A suitcase. Just look at that suitcase. And now imagine you are standing in the street outside of your house with two heavy suitcases. Know that one of those suitcases is full of all of your worries about the future. The other suitcase is full of all of your regrets about the past. Take a moment standing there in the street, holding those two heavy suitcases, and reflect for a moment on each one. Reflect about the future. We worry so much, and we know yet that it's going to come on its own accord whenever it comes. And most of the things we worry about never happen. Standing there in the street, reflect on the suitcase of your past. Another very heavy suitcase. Consider how the past can't be changed. All we can do with the past is bring it into the present to learn from it, to be a better people, to move forward, having learned from our mistakes and our errors, and becoming more skillful as a better person in this world. This morning, we have someone speaking, Shariff Ingram, who I know has stood there with those two suitcases, perhaps on more than one occasion. But he overcame the past and he looked solidly to the future and is making a difference in the world. He dared to dream that impossible dream. We all need to dare to dream the impossible dream. Righting the wrong, the dream says, that seems so impossible, but it's not. Let's listen. The Chicago Children's Choir. Beautiful. We all must dare to dream, just as we will find out that Shariff has and has made those dreams come true and is still making those dreams come true. Our words of wisdom this morning. The Quran and Islamic traditions emphasize treating prisoners with dignity and respect. The Quran also encourages freeing prisoners, whether through ransom, exchange, or outright release as charity. The Christian scripture depicts God as our liberator, promising to free captives and prisoners. Our scripture emphasizes bringing about justice to those who are oppressed. Isaiah 6 says, "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and to set the prisoner free from darkness." Amen. And now, I want to show you what Wedgewood's been doing this week. Ryan? We have been very busy. A group of us went yesterday to the No Kings event in First Wood Park, uptown Charlotte. And besides feeling so good and so inspired, we felt we had a great time together in fellowship and had lunch together. And those of you that weren't able to join us, perhaps the next event that we have, you can join us. Next slide. Huge crowd. We've had estimates from 5 to 10,000, but it was a lot of people. But we were so happy to be there to fight for justice. Next slide. That's an aerial view. Next slide. Some people that we know, some people that are here this morning. We had a wonderful time, and those are some of the signs that we had. And Tom Blanford is credited with the artwork for those signs. So let's give him a hand. Thank you, Tom. Now we know who the artist in the group is. Next sign. Jonathan Lopez. Next slide. There we are, seeking shade. We spent a lot of time looking for shade. And next slide. We read into some of our Jewish friends, Jewish Voices for Peace, who are fighting against what's happening in Gaza. And they were there in full force, and it was wonderful to see them. That's Rob Rosenthal on the left. We all know Rob. I just consider him a Wedgewoodian. So they were there, a large group, standing up for Palestine. And the next slide. Our Ukrainian friends were also there. We saw several of them, and it was just great to see them there standing up for the Ukraine as well. Next slide. And there we are, Queen City and Wedgewood say no kings. So let's give a hand to everybody that went. We're so proud of you, and the people that aren't even here today outside of our community who went, we appreciate it. And now I will turn it over to Liz for our announcements.
Thank you, Melba. Yes, what an incredible weekend it has been so far, and it's continuing today. But we have a few announcements of upcoming events about some other things that we have coming up in Wedgewood. Next week, I will actually be speaking, and I will be talking about how, a lot of folks might know that I'm really big into gardening. I've really developed a love of it over the last few years. And I know there's some gardeners at Wedgewood as well. And I will be sharing how I believe that gardening is a metaphor for social justice in a lot of ways, both on an individual level and a community level. So join us next Sunday. And we have our LGBTQ peer support group. Our next meeting is going to be in July. So join us. It's free for all participants. We are not announcing the location or meeting time, to make sure that folks, feel safe and secure, because this is a sensitive topic. But if you know of anyone who is looking for healing space, members of the LGBT community that have experienced harm by religious institutions, Wedgewood and the Freedom Center feel really strongly about providing a space where folks can heal and find community and find spiritual healing and community together. So if you're interested or know anyone who might be, please share this information with them. There's a QR code on your screen. The information is also in our newsletter and on our website. And next Saturday, Wedgewood keeps busy. Next Saturday, we have a booth at Rock Hill Pride. The festival will be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., but we need your help to help set up the tent, set up the tables, and just have a volunteer shift and just talk to people who come by our tent. Wedgewood does things differently, and we think that people really would be interested in hearing all about Wedgewood. So join us, help us spread the word about Wedgewood and what we do. Talk about the social justice actions that we take. But we need your help, and we would love for you to sign up for a volunteer shift. That information can be found on in our Tuesday newsletter, on our website, and on our social media pages. But we hope to see you there. And we say often that we are small, but we are mighty, and we need your support to continue the work that we do. And there's many different ways to give. You can mail your donations to our P.O. box. You can give electronically through Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle. There are a lot of different ways to give. It is so easy, and we appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. A lot of exciting things, and you'll find more things in our newsletter. So be sure and sign up to get our weekly newsletter. And now Reggie will lead us in our extravagant welcome. Everyone is welcome at Wedgewood.
We are all welcome here. Welcome to a community that works for peace, justice, equality, and the care of Mother Earth.
We are all welcome here.
An extravagant welcome to you because of your gender identification, sexual orientation, ethnicity, economic situation, physical and mental challenges, doubting or believing, being depressed or full of joy.
We are all
welcome
here.
We are a community of curious and creative spiritual seekers striving to learn from and embody the way of servant leadership.
We are all welcome here.
We focus on the plundered and the marginalized as we try to address the major issues of our day.
We are all
welcome
here.
You are invited to share your passion, your inspiration, and your personal story as one of the ways to help heal the world.
We are all welcome here.
We come to a time of celebrations and concerns. We certainly want to celebrate the success of the marches and protests yesterday, people standing up for justice and equality. But we also want to remember to lift up in our prayers this country and all that we are going through, and all of the people that are being so badly hurt by what's going on. We went out to eat at Authentica, and there was very few people there, and they said their business is almost nothing now because people are afraid to come and eat. So we have a lot of people who are suffering because of this administration, and we want to remember them. We want to remember Ashanti, who is traveling this weekend. Are there other thoughts and concerns? Sharon Long is still suffering with health problems. We want to remember Sharon. Are there others?
I want to take a moment to celebrate. I know this is our Father's Day service. And as you mentioned, fatherhood can look a million different ways. I want to celebrate our fathers. My dad's birthday is also this coming week, and I want to celebrate that because he's been a really great dad.
Wish him a happy birthday for us. Are there others? We call God by many names: the Great Spirit, Allah, God, Father. No matter what name you call the superior being by, let's take a few moments of quiet and lift our concerns up to our higher beings. And if you believe in prayer, meditation, whatever your beliefs are, let's take a few moments and focus on the needs of this world. Amen. And now it is my pleasure to turn the service over to Shariff Ingram. Shariff spoke to us several years ago, right after he was released from incarceration. Shariff was incarcerated at age 15, charged and convicted in an adult court, sentenced to a mandatory life sentence with no chance of parole. He served 23 years before being released after a U.S. Supreme Court decision made retroactive an earlier decision that it was unconstitutional to sentence children to a mandatory life sentence without parole. And since his release, he's doing amazing things, especially with our young people. He's saving lives. He truly is saving lives. So, Shariff, I am thrilled to turn it over to you this morning. Share with us all that you want to share, and I'm sure we have lots of questions.
Good morning. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure. So as you mentioned, my story is not all that unique, especially in the city of Philadelphia. I come from a city that sentenced more children to life in prison or death by incarceration sentences than anywhere in the world. The United States is the only country that allowed the sentencing of children to death, and then they made that unconstitutional in 2005. And then the United States was the only country that continued to sentence children to mandatory life without parole, which was a death by incarceration sentence. And then when they made that unconstitutional in 2012, Pennsylvania was one of the states that they didn't feel that the ruling, they tried to interpret the ruling in a way that it didn't apply to people like me, because they knew that we were in a unique situation of having over 500 children that they sentenced to this death by incarceration sentence over the years, more than anywhere in the world. And even within this country, Pennsylvania had more than anywhere, within the country. And, coming from the city of Philadelphia, we had about 350 of those 500 and something, which was more than any other state except one, definitely more than any other city. So coming home, it's a blessing, but unfortunately, a lot of the same circumstances still exist in our communities that led to my incarceration. We see a lot of problems in Philadelphia in particular, but a lot of Black and brown cities, but in particular the city that I'm from, Philadelphia, with the violence, gun violence, and, the lack of resources and a lot of the things that were going on that led to my incarceration as a child. We see that those things have become intensified on levels that are beyond even things that what I went through, what a lot of these kids are going through. But saying that, being someone that went through the system and come from these communities, I have not only a concern, but I feel an obligation, and coming home to do something with this opportunity and not, of course, enjoying life and, raising a family and things of that nature, but also trying to help to use my lived experience in ways that can influence policy change on how we treat children in the criminal justice system, hoping that my story can help to save some of these kids' lives. They look at me and, some of these kids, they can't believe I did 23 years, and, I went in there before they was born, and some of them listen, as with all kids, and, everybody's circumstances are different. Not everybody going to get it. Not everybody going to listen. Some, is really only so much you can really offer them beyond advice. They live in circumstances that at times I can't really, intervene and help them in meaningful ways. And sometimes I am, but it's, we live in a society, as I always say, that, we treat children like children everywhere except the criminal justice system. And why is that? Why is it that when we find children that commit these great harms and it's something, and we throw them away to to prison. And we realize time and time again that these things are not solving any problems in our communities. Our communities are not becoming more safe. Our children are not becoming more whole. If anything, it's making our communities more dangerous. Our youth more violent, going into adult prisons and having to survive and fend for that stuff. Everybody, some people try to use me as an example and say, "Oh, well, the system worked." But if you look at my record in prison, I'm sure you would change that view that it worked, because in there I was labeled as one of those that wasn't able to be rehabilitated. Even going through the resentencing process, I was still being labeled as someone that was a danger to society, even at 38 years old, 37 years old. And I had to go through a lot of intensive mitigation. I had to get evaluated by prison adjustment experts, criminologists, to study my prison violence, and for them to be able to explain it was due to the conditions. But then people like me would come home and people would say, well, this is an example that prison works, But what about the many people that come home that create other crimes and harm people? And then people say, well, they shouldn't have been released. What about the children that went in there that didn't come home? They come home in a physical sense, but they destroy mentally, psychologically. Many of them having a lot of physical ailments. Some of them coming home after all of them years and dying, from all of the health issues that they had in there. So there's a lot of harm that is taking place when we are incarcerating our children, especially when we are incarcerating them in adult prisons and treating them as though they are adults. So, I've been doing a lot of policy work lately. Last time we spoke, I was still doing bridges full time, and I was a Speakers Bureau coordinator for Youth Sentencing and Reentry Project part time. The organization that helped get me home, that represented me, provided my mitigation, and got me all of the prison adjustment experts and criminologists and all of these things that I was speaking about. Actually, my office now, my mitigation specialist that worked on my case with my lawyer, her office is actually next door to my office, So it's truly a blessing. I transitioned over full time in December of this past December 2024 as Speakers Bureau and Policy Coordinator. So I do not just about 50% public speaking, the other 50% policy work, in particular trying to influence policy change in Pennsylvania, working with the legislators, people on the Judiciary Committee. We've been working on the care package that's about to come out, a set of bills dealing with juvenile justice reform, trying to end the practice of charging children as adults, trying to end the practice of placing children in solitary confinement. I went to Harrisburg a week or two ago speaking about the harms of solitary, myself spending close to 10 years in solitary throughout my 23 years of incarceration. I know what it done to me. I've seen what it done to others. And again, I've seen people that didn't survive it. So, that's pretty much what I've been working on for the most part. Just, trying to see where I can be most effective. You're on mute. I can't hear you.
What questions? Anyone speak up? I know that I have a few, but I'll let somebody else go first.
Yeah, I would like to, first of all, welcome for joining us. We really appreciate your contributions. So North Carolina changed a few years ago the age of incarceration for nonviolent crimes for juveniles to 18. And they acted like it was a big difference. So could you talk a little bit about the difference between the juvenile justice system and the adult justice system?
Yeah. So I was just down in North Carolina. I actually spoke at Duke. One of the co-founders of the organization I work for is a professor at Duke now, Duke Law. So you said they changed the age from the 18 to be prosecuted in adult court, you saying?
Yeah, for nonviolent offenders, I guess I don't know how they define that. If you're under 18, you go into the juvenile justice system and not into the adult system. I think before that it was 16, so they just raised it a couple years.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of that, even if it's superficial, would always have a major impact on things because if we did something like that in PA, right, where we had a bill say and they changed it, and this is not what we currently have pending, but if it was to say we can't charge children as adults, anyone under 18 for a nonviolent crime goes through the juvenile system. That will bring down the prison population tremendously with children as charged as adults. Now we do have a lot of children that are being charged with adults that have violent crimes. So it wouldn't necessarily it would somewhat scratch the surface, but it wouldn't necessarily address the issue because the people, and not only that, the kids that's going through the system that has nonviolent offenses, sometimes they more than likely they're not doing a lot of time because they don't have a violent offense, and that can be even more harmful sometimes, going through the system for that short period of time and, only to be released. And I've heard children that speak about that being traumatizing on different levels as well. But then you got to think about children that go through the system and do decades and years in prison and how much more traumatizing, that is. So, the real harm is the children that are, and the real struggle is how do you get people to understand and still look at children as children that commit violent crimes, right? What I've never understood is why is it so hard to convince people, legislators in particular, that children that haven't committed any violent crimes or hurt anyone, why do they belong in prison? So any state that does anything to raise the age or that will keep less children in prison, in particular adult prison, is always a good policy. But more than likely is nowhere near as far as where we should be going.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I have a question as well. So in your mentorship work with high-risk youth, just talking to folks, what are some misconceptions they think that people have about high-risk youth in particular and how they end up in these incarceral systems?
The biggest misconception is that these kids are somehow born or just, inherently evil, right? That's the biggest misconception, that these kids, they weren't normal kids at one point, and along with that they can't be taught a different way, that there's no hope for them. That's the biggest misconception, especially in cities like mine. And also another big misconception is that all of these kids want to be a part of this. Speaking about the violence in particular that's going on in cities like mine. I had a kid when I first came home, he was 16 at the time, and I met him at a program I was mentoring that called IDAAY. And I would mentor there voluntarily. This was before I was working in the nonprofit world. I just would go there and volunteer at the work a couple of times a week. And I took this kid under the wing. I got him a job. My ex-wife, she had a restaurant at the time. I got him a job, and he was from North Philly, and he was involved in the streets. He went to jail for a pistol, got out, came back home, got arrested for dope, came back home, got arrested for another pistol. So when I met him, he had 3 times in the system already at 16 years old, right? And got him a job. I mean, for like 6 months, he was like, "Man, if you can help me get some money in my pocket and all that, man, I'll leave the streets alone, right? I'm trying to take care of my mom, a single mom, and there's 9 of us. I'm the oldest, right? You got all these little brothers, sisters, and I said, all right, and he started working there. My ex-wife started letting him make like little puddings to sell little fight, making this little money on the side from whatever she like, loved him. And me and her wound up separating, and he stayed with her, right? Everybody would joke that was like our adopted son, right? Some guys came home that reignited some conflict that happened before I came home, where somebody was killed. I don't know who killed who. All I know is he was on the side of the people that supposed to have killed the young kid family that came home. And it reignited the whole war. They started coming to my wife's restaurant with guns and masks on looking for him. He was there one day, and my wife's daughter, and I think her girlfriend, was at the counter and seen something like, didn't look right. Unfortunately, the kid was in the back, so when they came, they said he wasn't there, this and that. And my long story short is, after this, my wife had to get him out of there, right? Fortunately, he was able to save his life probably, but, he couldn't stay in the store, couldn't stay living with them. My ex-wife's son had just got murdered like a year before, so he was already going through the trauma of that, right? So, he not knowing what to do, he panicked. And he, robbed, steal money out the safe, stole a gun, stole the cards, car title and stuff, and he left. And I haven't heard from this kid in years. This was like a year after I came home. Maybe about a year ago, I haven't heard from about a year ago, he reached out, I think, to my ex-wife's son or somebody, and sent me a message saying that he's sorry, he didn't know what to do and all of that, right? But I tell that long story to say this, that's a prime example of something that I went through with these kids that are reachable. This kid, and my wife and all of my ex-wife and them, they like, you're still angry with him, right? And I'm upset with him too, but I get it, because he like, Dan, what can I do, man? I finally got, this old head taking me under the wing. His ex-wife, he started going to school with their kids in Frankfurt versus North Philly. You know what I mean? And, so it's just sad. That's one of the biggest misconceptions people have, is that our environments and conditions are creating these things that we see in children that we label as being evil and corrupt and things of this nature, right? But our children are living in war zones. It's amazing that we can understand when grown men go into the military in Iraq or Afghanistan or somewhere, and they see all this killing and, going through all of the things that they go through for 1 or 2 tours. But yet we got people living in war zones where I'm sitting at right now in West Philly. All of this stuff around here is war zone.
Amen.
People dying on these blocks every single day, right? And it's like people seeing it, people witnesses. People are more immune, or more immune to this violence going on out here than I am. When I come and I see a dead body laying out, somebody just got shot, and people standing around just talking and smiling, and I'm like, damn, whatever. I don't know, man, do this. And it's just like normal. What does this do to our children, to a society that internalizes this as being normal? They growing up as though this is the norm. They not thinking when you die, that's it. You're not coming back. You kill somebody, there's no coming back from that. They not fully grasping that.
Yeah.
Their brains. When you put them in an environment where this is the norm, you put a child in any environment where something is the norm, not most likely it's going to turn out that they're going to internalize that as being the norm. And that's not to say all kids, because some kids able to grow up in these environments and not gravitate. My sister was a prime example of that, right? Grew up in the same block that I grew up on, and she went to Penn State, got her master's, owned businesses and all of that type of stuff, right? But the point is, the biggest misconception is that people have to understand, until the conditions in our communities change, until the conditions change, then nothing is going to change in regards to the violence and the things that we're seeing.
Last Sunday, we got into a conversation about the ban the box. I'm sure you know what that is, where when you apply for a job, you're asked, are you a felon? And in some places, that box has been banned, and it has not been banned in North Carolina. Did you encounter the box? I mean, I don't know what the laws are in Pennsylvania, but was that a problem? I know it is for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I executive director at YSRPB. I actually just testified before City Council like a week or two ago in regards to an amendment that they doing in Philadelphia on ban the box. So in Philadelphia, yeah, we had a ban the box initiative, but it's like some things that they've been tweaking it over the years. But for me, I don't know if it goes outside of Philadelphia because in the state of Pennsylvania, and I can't really think. It's only I haven't applied for too many jobs in Philadelphia over the years. The one I have currently, and maybe one or maybe two other jobs, right? But other like when I've applied for jobs like FedEx, True Green, which is a lawn fertilization company, Walmart. Those are just 3 jobs that I've been hired and then fired once my background come back. And, that's part of the reason why I stayed with construction for so long. It's very difficult to get employment. People think that it's just difficult for sex offenders, right? But it's not. It's difficult for anybody that has a conviction, especially a felony conviction. And sometimes they don't even got to know what the conviction was for, just the fact that you were incarcerated. Now you add to that you come home and you don't have no work history. It's even harder for people to take a shot on you, take a shot with you. Because I went in prison at 15, came home at 38. So when I go fill out a job and they say, well, what you been doing the last 25, 30 years? I'm like, well, damn, if they ain't asking me was I in prison, I don't want to volunteer. So I was a handyman for 30 years or something, 20 years, So it's like you got to become inventive on. And then a lot of times the way that you really able to come home and transition smoothly is from networking. I came home, my sister boyfriend was a foreman at a major construction company doing heavy highway construction. I come home right to a career, no training, no nothing, just hired me. He told him I know how to do it, and he told me act like I know how to do it. He just showed me from day to day. I had to pay attention, and then when I left from him and I went with another company, it was the same thing. I just, paid attention, but I was fortunate to get in the door. Some people don't even have that opportunity to get in the door with those types of careers, especially with a record. So that's another hindrance in coming home is that, when you have a record, not just with that, with housing. I would say housing is maybe more difficult than employment. Some of the things with employment are slowly being addressed piece by piece, on a somewhat superficial level. But when it comes to housing, I don't really know of anything other than, different nonprofits maybe that, try to provide housing for people, temporary housing and things. But that's a struggle I went through in coming home, living with my sister and out in the suburbs and outside of Philly in North Wales, PA. And I thought that, I'm making all this good money, man. I got the pay stubs. I'll be able to move and stay around here. And it was just a waste of my money. I kept putting down the deposit, whatever fee that it is. And they would call me back. Background came back. We don't rent to people with criminal histories. So I was forced to save my money and buy something. Till this day, I've never been able to find anywhere to rent that I would want to live. Of course, I could come in Philly, somewhere, but
Other thoughts, questions? I would really appreciate, I know you said that you're working on policy, and if you could send me just anything about what you're working on as far as going through the legislature or anything that we could get behind here with our representatives, that would really, really be helpful. We want to get behind the ban the box, but I know there's other things, and maybe you can help us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, like, with I don't know if anyone on the call is from Pennsylvania, but the legislators that we are working on are the Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee specifically in Pennsylvania. So they not really going to listen to anybody outside of Pennsylvania. Like they're going to listen to their constituents, right? However, there are other things that we are exploring doing, and I will send you some. Yeah, I will
Thank
send
you.
something to you in regards to what we have going on in different ways that y'all may can help, other than like from the legislative perspective, because it's always things going on in y'all particular states or cities as well that may be connected to some things that we doing here. And one of the things that we I was about to say trying to do, but we actually have been doing, is building right now, and it's a PA Justice Coalition. So it's a different groups in PA that's fighting for child justice issues, like organization Children's First, ACLU, Abolitionist Law Center, Juvenile Law Center, my organization, Youth Sentencing Reentry Project. And then there's some of these organizations that we work with are national organizations, though. So even though they are a part of the PA Justice Coalition, like Abolitionist Law Centers are more national. Juvenile Law Center, they work on this stuff across the country in every state, not just PA, right? So yeah, I would definitely send you some stuff that we're working on, and try to find ways that yourself or those on the call that want to be involved, that y'all can, whether it's some ways that y'all can help us up here, or ways that y'all can get involved in where y'all are located.
Shariff, I worked in Baltimore, and we were able to. I worked for the city of Baltimore as a human resource director. We were able to effectively ban the box. We had a commission, effectively ban the box, and to be honest, it was a trickle-down effect for a lot of the manufacturing companies. They decided to ban the box and started hiring people who were formerly incarcerated. So I think it's worth a push. I do think it's, municipality by municipality, but it's definitely worth a push. And you could look at Baltimore's efforts to ban the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think the biggest thing now in Philly, that's a lot of people are finding employment through nonprofits.
Right.
Right.
Got a lot of nonprofit work going on. Some people even coming home starting their own nonprofits. And the city, prior to this current administration, I don't know how hard it is to get funded now, but the city will fund a lot of these programs if you had a real legit program and you could show, so yeah, that's been a route that a lot of people been taking. Or if you're young enough, construction or physical labor, those are pretty much the jobs that they don't care if you've been in jail for the most part. And then the ones that do a background check, they only go back like 7 years, and they look for specific crimes, I think, like theft and stuff like that, But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if I can say it's getting a little better. I would say it's getting better for some, and for others that came home is pretty much still, still a struggle. Some people that have been home longer than me, they still struggling. They get a job, but it don't necessarily be a meaningful job that they can really build a career off of and raise a family. And, that does something with a person morale, and, coming home and not feeling like you're able to be a man and provide and all of these things, right? So, yeah, it's very important, but yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Shariff, in terms of housing, I know that there's all sorts of federal HUD regulations about people that are formerly incarcerated can't qualify for any sort of federal housing. Is there any way a city can work around that and on a city basis provide housing for people who are recently released, or is it just they're just out of luck?
I mean, I don't know. I never heard of the city even talking about it. I don't even think that's even a consideration. I mean, the city don't really provide nothing to formerly incarcerated people, so housing is like way far fetched.
Yeah.
And it's in Philadelphia,
Wow.
The city don't provide any reentry. The state, the prison system, you don't. Yeah, there, you only thing you'll get when you come home, they give you a welfare card. They give you a welfare card till you get a job. Where you get like $200 or $300 of food stamps a month. Uh,
Mm.
and little things that might be about it. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that might be it. I mean, they have some programs through the state that they claim provide housing. I went through a couple of them. OVR, I went through Career Link, I went through this other one. And I never got approved for anything. Every time I got approved somehow it never went nowhere.
Mm.
So like, myself coming home, even with the resources that I had, I was trying to tap into some of the resources with like housing, like the things that, that I was, that could help me. And I never like even with having the resources I had, when it came to the state or the city or the prison system or anyone, there was really no resources. Like I said, other than that welfare card, and they do give you health. You get health care until you get a job. So
Oh. One other quick thing, you said you had an advisor that's at Duke. Could we be in touch with that individual to find out a little bit more about what's going on statewide?
I will. Yeah, I will reach out and ask him. I just don't want to volunteer and
Right.
Right, and not
Yeah.
give him my information. I'll make sure you have everything and see if he would be willing to get in touch with us.
Yeah, it's a
She?
lady. Yeah, she. I will. Just send me a reminder, and I definitely will. I mean, I'm sure she wouldn't mind. I just don't want to,
Yeah,
volunteer
Yeah.
without, speaking
understand.
to her
That would
first.
be great.
Yeah, that'd be helpful to us. Thank you.
Because what part of North Carolina y'all in again?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay. And how far is that from Durham, where Duke at? Like, how far is that about?
About 3-ish hours.
Okay.
Okay.
I was down there last year in Goldsboro and Mount Olive for my family reunion.
And you spoke at Duke.
Yeah.
My son's a big Dookie, so I know
That was
you
my
spoke
first.
at
Yeah, that was
Duke.
my first time. Dude, it's definitely a nice campus. When I went,
Oh yeah.
I went downstairs and I was talking to one of the students because I got there a little early, and he's like, "You want something to drink, some coffee or something?" I said, "Yeah." So I just go downstairs. So I had my suitcase because I was I was flying back after I spoke or whatever, and I had my laptop. And he said, I said, "Well, should I take this with me?" I said, "No, everybody leave their stuff right there." So I'm looking around, just laptops laying everywhere. So I'm going downstairs the whole time, though I'm thinking, like, I hope my suitcase really there when I get back. So Lauren, the professor, when she finally came out and I was telling her the story, she was like, "Yeah, I've been here about a year now and a little over, and I haven't got used to that yet coming from Philly. Like, I still take my laptop." But she said around here, everybody just leave their stuff laying around. And she said, "I never heard of like nobody missing." I said, "That's a big difference alone from, somewhere like Philly. You go in Temple and you leave a laptop laying there and go in the bathroom, come back and it won't be there. I'm almost guaranteed."
Yeah,
Yeah.
Baltimore's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're spending $50,000 a year on tuition, a laptop is nothing to you. It's not even worth picking up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
What part of Philly are you in?
I'm from Southwest, but I'm in West Philly right now as we talk.
Is
Okay.
there such a place as Strawberry Mansion High School?
Strawberry Mansion, that's North Philly.
Okay.
I
That's
believe.
that's where my folks are.
Oh, okay.
North Philly.
Okay. Yeah, they ain't that far. They ain't too far.
thank you so much for the time with us. And Shariff has his own cutest little boy you've ever seen. I love your pictures you post of him, and I know he's going to do great things because with a dad like you, I just know great things lie ahead of him. And so we lift you and your son and your family all up uh, for just all good things to come to you. And our
Thank
closing song this morning, I want to dedicate to you, Shariff. It's called My Hero. It's a powerful, heartfelt song which has such a strong meaning for all of us, really. It's about appreciating someone who has been a constant source of support and love, especially during difficult times. We may think of our fathers or our uncles or our brothers, but I want to dedicate it to Shariff. I'm tearing up here, guys. You have been a hero and you have been such an inspiration to me and to all the people at Wedgewood. The lives you are saving and the work you are doing and the young people you are helping. You have turned an absolutely unimaginable, horrendous experience that none of us can begin to imagine into being a hero to other young people. So this song is dedicated to you, my hero. Let's give Shariff a hand. Thank you for all that you're doing for our young people, and we're going to learn from you. Let's think for a minute what we can take from this service, from this week. What action can we take this week individually? I know that I'm going to be in touch with Shariff and get some information from him to share, but contacting legislators, but what other actions can we take in the situation we are living in today, this week?
Well, my call to action this week will be to definitely call some of the legislators. I'm very unhappy with what's going on with immigration, ICE raids, and so that's my call to action for this week. It's just disturbing. So,
Someone else, what is your call to action this morning? What are you feeling the call to do?
My call to action is when you see misinformation, point it out and correct them. Information is powerful. And if you find resources, and we share a lot of resources together, share resources out within your network so more people can learn about these things and the issues that are going on right now.
I'm going to go to the Know Your Rights training at Galilee Center on Tuesday to learn about how to spread the word on how to resist ICE. And also on Saturday, it's the World Refugee Day, and Refugee Support Services is having an event on Saturday afternoon.
I know that yesterday I mentioned this, that the Mexican restaurant we ate at, that they are just really struggling to survive because that part of the city is being hit really hard with ICE raids. And we know that Mondelez Bakery that we all love so much, and almost all of the ethnic places have been hit. And they are struggling to survive. So I'm going to make a point to go out at least once this week to one of those businesses that are run by our immigrants, and enjoy myself, dining, buying baked goods or whatever.
Yes. And this is also Pride Month. So if there is a Pride celebration somewhere wherever you live, please try to go and support. The LGBTQ community is also under attack, and there's so many things going on, so many intersectional issues going on, but support the LGBTQ community as well if you can.
Any others?
I'm retired from that now, but I used to be a substance abuse counselor, and I worked with clients who were in drug court here in Charlotte. And I'm going to plan this week to reach out to some former coworkers to get an update on how that program is going and see if there's, some way I might be of service in retirement to them.
Wonderful.
And I live right here in East Charlotte. So if anybody's going to one of these local places, give me a call. I'll be glad to go with you. I don't see, so I don't drive, but I'll go. I'll spend money.
We'd love to. And I mentioned this to a couple of Wedgwoodians already, that we can pick you up and bring you to Wedgwood events. That will not be a problem. We've got people in the area, so we would be thrilled for you to join us. That would be great. And let us know what you learn about the drug abuse programs, because there's another area.
I will.
So we've got lots of challenges this week, and maybe next Sunday we can come back and and share how our challenges went and what we did and how we felt or what responses we got. Our closing words today: may the spirit of compassion guide us as we remember those who are within the walls of confinement, not just here, but all over the world. May we see them not as separate from ourselves, but as part of ourselves. The scripture we read last week said, see them as if you are there with them. May hope find its way into their hearts. May we be inspired to work towards a more just and compassionate world where everyone can find their place. And may the love that binds us together sustain us all in the days that lie ahead. Amen, and may it be so. And thank you, everyone, and thank you, Shariff.